You open your eyes to a quiet morning. The soft light slips through the curtains, and the familiar hum of the day beginning surrounds you. In the kitchen, your hand reaches for a colorful sweet fruit, a ritual you've trusted for decades. You've heard it's healthy, a clean way to start the day. You slice it, savor the first juicy bite, and feel good knowing you're making the right choice. But here's the truth. You may not realize that very bite could set off a silent chain reaction inside your body. It begins subtly, a spike in blood sugar, a rush of natural compounds into your bloodstream. For someone in their 30s, the body might handle it without issue. But after 60, your blood vessels have changed. They're no longer the elastic, resilient highways they once were. They've stiffened, narrowed, and carry microscopic damage from years of wear. Now that sudden morning surge is like turning a gentle stream into a flash flood, battering the most delicate vessels feeding your brain. Think of it this way. Your brain relies on a steady, balanced flow of blood, not too fast, not too slow, carrying oxygen and nutrients every second of your life. But when you wake up and immediately introduce a concentrated dose of sugar, even from a natural source, it's like flipping a switch on a fragile circuit. Your pancreas is suddenly forced into overdrive to produce insulin. Your heart rate rises slightly, and your blood pressure shifts in response. In a younger body, this is just a routine adjustment. In a senior's body with arteries that may already have plaque buildup or a history of micro tears, these fluctuations can become dangerous triggers. This particular fruit has an additional hidden problem, one most people don't even know exists. The compounds in its skin and flesh, while beneficial in small amounts for some, can actually irritate the inner lining of blood vessels in sensitive individuals. This irritation sets off low-grade inflammation, which encourages blood to clot more easily. Over hours, those clots can lodge in a narrow brain artery and block blood flow. That's how a stroke happens silently, swiftly, and often without warning. I recall a patient, Mr. Halverson, a 67-year-old retired postal worker. He came to me after experiencing sudden numbness in his left arm one morning. He was active, slim, and took pride in his healthy habits. But when we reviewed his daily routine, one detail stood out every morning. Without fail, he ate this exact fruit before breakfast on an empty stomach. Over time, his combination of mildly elevated blood pressure, stiffening arteries, and these daily sugar and compound surges had created the perfect environment for a clot to form. Thankfully, his symptoms resolved within hours, a warning shot known as a transient ischemic attack, or TIA. But the lesson was clear. Even healthy foods can become dangerous if they're the wrong match for your body's current state. What makes this more concerning is timing. Eating this fruit late in the evening, or as the last thing before bed, can leave your body processing its sugars and compounds well into the night. During sleep, blood pressure naturally dips and circulation changes. The lingering effects can cause morning blood to be thicker and more prone to clotting, a dangerous scenario, given that strokes occur most often in the early morning hours. This is why the old saying, "an apple a day keeps the doctor away," or any similar blanket health claim, doesn't apply equally to all ages. After 60, your body processes foods differently. Your liver may take longer to break down natural sugars. Your blood vessels may be less forgiving of sudden changes, and your brain may be more vulnerable to interruptions in blood flow. Before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. And if you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. Today, I'm going to take you through 9 common foods, starting with this deceptively healthy morning fruit that may be silently raising your stroke risk overnight. What you learn here could change not just what's on your breakfast plate, but the course of your health for years to come. As we age, our bodies adapt, but not always in ways that work in our favor. By the time you reach 60, the intricate network of blood vessels feeding your brain has already experienced decades of pressure changes, tiny injuries, and subtle chemical wear. The smooth, flexible walls you had in your younger years are now less elastic, more rigid. This natural stiffening of the arteries is called arteriosclerosis, and while it's a normal part of aging, it sets the stage for serious trouble when combined with certain dietary triggers. When you wake up and eat a fruit rich in natural sugars on an empty stomach, those sugars enter your bloodstream rapidly. The body's glucose level spikes sharply. In response, your pancreas floods your system with insulin to help shuttle that sugar into cells for energy. For a younger, more resilient cardiovascular system, this is a routine surge, easily managed and quickly stabilized. But for seniors, this sudden sugar rush creates a cascade of effects. Blood pressure can jump, heart rate may accelerate, and the stiffened arteries have to absorb a rapid change in pressure. That sudden strain is precisely when microscopic cracks in artery walls can appear. Here's where the danger deepens. Once those cracks form, your body reacts to patch them by sending platelets, the clotting cells in your blood, to the site. While this is part of natural healing in an older body with slower circulation, those platelets can overreact, creating a clot larger than necessary. If a piece of that clot breaks free, it can travel upward to the brain, block an artery, and trigger a stroke. And because strokes often happen early in the morning, during the hours right after you wake, the breakfast you choose can directly influence your risk window. I remember Mrs. Patterson, a 72-year-old former librarian, who came to see me complaining of dizziness and blurry vision that started mid-morning. She had no history of diabetes and her blood pressure was only slightly elevated. But after running some tests and reviewing her eating patterns, the culprit emerged. She had developed a habit of eating a large serving of this morning fruit and nothing else within minutes of waking up. Her blood sugar spikes were so steep that they caused temporary narrowing of brain arteries, leading to the symptoms she described. Once she adjusted her breakfast routine, pairing smaller portions of fruit with protein and healthy fats, her symptoms resolved within weeks. Science backs this up. Studies in older adults show that post-meal glucose spikes are stronger predictors of vascular damage than average blood sugar levels alone. In other words, even if your overall blood sugar is normal, Those extreme peaks, especially first thing in the morning, can still chip away at the health of your arteries. And because stiffened arteries don't expand well, each surge adds a little more wear, a little more inflammation, and a little more risk. If the idea of a healthy food doing harm still feels counterintuitive, you're not alone. Most dietary advice paints fruit as universally safe. But the truth is, after 60, context matters. The time of day you eat it, what you eat it with, and the current condition of your cardiovascular system all play a role in whether it helps you or hurts you. And here's the real kicker. The hidden danger in this fruit isn't just about the sugar content. There's a specific compound in its peel and flesh that can quietly intensify this problem by irritating your artery walls and making them more prone to clotting. That's exactly what we'll uncover next, and once you hear what it is, you'll understand why I warn my patients to be cautious with it. By now you understand that the sugar surge from this fruit can stress aging arteries. But sugar is only half the story. The other danger is hidden in plain sight, in the very skin and flesh you might think holds most of the fruit's goodness. Inside that peel, and just beneath it, lies a naturally occurring group of chemicals called furanocoumarins. In the plant world, these compounds act as a defense against insects and fungi. In the human body, particularly in older adults, they can have a far more troubling effect. Furanocoumarins interact directly with enzymes in your liver, specifically an important one called CYP3A4. This enzyme is responsible for breaking down many common medications, including those prescribed for blood pressure, cholesterol, and heart rhythm problems. When furanocoumarins block this enzyme, the medication you've taken can remain in your bloodstream at higher than intended levels. For some drugs, that means an exaggerated effect. Blood pressure dropping too low, heart rhythms becoming unstable, or clotting medications working too strongly and increasing the risk of bleeding. For others, it means dangerous side effects that strain the cardiovascular system, and in certain situations make arteries even more vulnerable to sudden blockage. But the impact doesn't stop at medication interactions. Furanocoumarins also have a subtle direct effect on your blood vessels themselves. They can irritate the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of arteries, triggering an inflammatory response. This inflammation acts like sandpaper against already stiffened arteries, making it easier for platelets to stick and form clots. Over time, repeated irritation can quietly narrow the vessels, setting the stage for a stroke or heart attack. One patient, Mr. Alvarez, a 68-year-old retired teacher, learned this lesson the hard way. For years he had followed a heart-healthy routine that included eating this fruit every single morning, peel and all blended into a smoothie. He was also taking a statin for cholesterol and a calcium channel blocker for blood pressure. At first, everything seemed fine. But over time he began experiencing sudden episodes of lightheadedness and weakness in his left arm. Tests revealed that his blood pressure medication was building up to dangerously high levels in his bloodstream, thanks to the enzyme-blocking action of the fruit's furanocoumarins. One episode progressed to a mild stroke. The connection only became clear when we reviewed his diet in detail. Once he cut the fruit out entirely, his medication levels normalized and his symptoms disappeared. Most people think of drug interactions as something to check only when starting a new prescription. But for seniors, the interaction between food compounds and medications is just as important, especially when those compounds also increase inflammation inside blood vessels. If you've been eating this fruit daily, especially in large portions or combined with your morning pills, you could be unknowingly raising your stroke risk. And even if you take no medication at all, the endothelial irritation it causes is reason enough to reconsider your breakfast habits. What's alarming is that this problem doesn't require months or years to develop. For some people, especially those with existing vascular disease, the combination of sugar spikes and furanocoumarine-induced irritation can begin to affect circulation within days or weeks. And here's the twist. This isn't the only healthy food that hides compounds and is capable of interfering with your circulation and medication safety. The next example I'll share is even more deceptive, because its danger isn't in the peel at all. It's in the way your body processes it while you sleep. Mr. Alvarez's story is one I'll never forget, because it's the perfect example of how a food we assume is healthy can turn into a silent saboteur, especially after 60. At 68, Mr. Alvarez was a picture of disciplined living. A retired high school teacher, he walked 3 miles a day, played chess at the local community center, and kept his weight in check. His kitchen was stocked with whole grains, lean proteins, and fresh produce. By all accounts, he was doing everything right. One of his proudest habits was his breakfast routine. Every morning he blended a smoothie with spinach yogurt and a generous helping of his favorite fruit peel and all. He believed the peel was where all the nutrients were something he had read in a magazine. He took his blood pressure medication and cholesterol pill right after finishing the smoothie, feeling certain he was giving his body the best possible start to the day. It started subtly, brief moments of dizziness when he stood up too quickly, occasional tingling in his fingertips. He brushed these off as just getting older. But then came a morning when halfway through his walk, his left leg felt heavy and unresponsive. By the time he made it back home, his speech was slightly slurred. His wife rushed him to the hospital, where tests confirmed he'd suffered a mild ischemic stroke. When we reviewed his lab work, something didn't add up. His blood pressure medication was present in his system at nearly double the intended therapeutic level. This was not an overdose in the traditional sense. It was a build-up caused by his daily fruit habit. The culprit was the furanocoumarins in the peel, which had been blocking his liver's ability to break down the drug. That meant every pill he took stayed in his system longer and at higher potency, lowering his blood pressure too much and impairing the circulation to his brain. Combined with the sugar surge and vascular irritation from the fruit itself, the stage was set for a clot to form. After the incident, I advised Mr. Alvarez to stop consuming the fruit altogether, especially with the peel. Within a few weeks, his blood pressure stabilized. He also made a simple breakfast adjustment, swapping the fruit for berries paired with a boiled egg or a handful of nuts. This change not only removed the dangerous compound from his diet, but also gave him a steadier morning blood sugar curve. The lesson from Mr. Alvarez's experience is clear. It's not just what you eat, but when and how you eat it. and what it interacts with inside your body. Many seniors take multiple medications, and the risk of food-drug interactions increases with age. Yet these interactions rarely make it into public health conversations about diet. I share his story, not to make you fearful of every bite, but to underscore the importance of awareness. If you've been feeling unexplained dizziness, weakness, or sudden changes in balance, even if they pass quickly, it's worth considering not just your prescriptions, but the foods you consume alongside them. And while Mr. Alvarez's risk came from an interaction between fruit compounds and his medications, the next hidden danger is different. It doesn't depend on prescriptions at all. It has to do with when you eat this particular food and the way it changes your brain's blood flow while you sleep. This is where many seniors unknowingly raise their stroke risk without touching a single pill. One of the most dangerous myths in nutrition is the belief that healthy automatically means safe, no matter your age. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? Eat whole foods, avoid processed junk, and you'll be fine. But once you pass 60, your body doesn't respond to food the way it did in your younger years. In fact, the very compounds and nutrients that once protected you can begin to work against you. Here's why aging changes everything from the way your stomach empties to how your liver processes chemicals to how your blood vessels react to fluctuations in pressure and sugar. For example, in your 40s, a morning dose of natural fruit sugar might give you a pleasant energy lift. By your 70s, that same sugar can cause a sharp spike and crash, stressing your arteries and even impairing blood flow to your brain. Your body's internal shock absorbers the elasticity in your arteries, the quick responsiveness of your pancreas, the efficiency of your liver, are simply not as strong as they once were. This is where the fruit we've been discussing becomes particularly deceptive. On paper, it's loaded with vitamin C, antioxidants, and fiber. In reality, those benefits can be outweighed by its risks when eaten in the wrong way at the wrong time, or in the wrong quantity, especially for seniors with cardiovascular concerns. Its natural sugars can spike blood glucose rapidly. Its furanocoumarins can interfere with drug metabolism, and its mild but chronic irritation of artery walls can quietly prime your body for a stroke. I think back to a patient named Mrs. Lang, 74, who prided herself on eating clean. She avoided processed foods entirely, didn't drink alcohol, and walked every day. Her downfall: she believed she could eat as much of this fruit as she wanted because it was natural. She often snacked on it in the evening, believing it was better than dessert. Over time, her sleep quality worsened. She woke up feeling groggy, and her morning blood pressure readings crept higher. When we ran her labs, her overnight blood sugar was elevated, and inflammatory markers in her bloodstream were higher than normal. After removing the fruit from her evening routine and replacing it with a light protein snack, her numbers improved within weeks. This isn't about demonizing one food. It's about understanding that after 60, the context in which you eat matters as much as the food itself. The timing, the portion, what you pair it with, and your current health status all determine whether it acts like medicine or poison. Here's something many don't realize. Seniors are at the highest risk for stroke in the early morning hours. That's when blood pressure naturally rises after a nighttime dip, and when blood tends to be thicker due to overnight fluid loss. If you've eaten something before bed that spikes blood sugar and causes vessel irritation, you may be setting the stage for that early morning danger window to become even more dangerous. That's why one of the most important rules I give my patients is this: after 60, never assume a food is harmless just because it's natural or recommended for younger adults. Your metabolism, your circulation, and your medication profile make you an entirely different case. And that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle. What happens when you eat certain foods late in the day, and how their effects can last well into the night. This is where we'll see how something as simple as a bedtime snack can quietly alter your brain's blood flow while you sleep. Nighttime is supposed to be when your body rests, repairs, and restores itself. Your heart rate slows, your blood pressure dips, and your brain's blood vessels get a much-needed break from the day's constant flow adjustments. But what you eat in the hours before bed can completely change that restorative process, and in some cases, turn it into a danger zone. When you eat this particular fruit late in the evening, you're introducing two problems at the exact wrong time. The first is the lingering sugar effect. Natural sugars from fruit aren't inherently bad, but when consumed before bed, they cause a delayed spike in blood sugar that can persist for hours. During sleep, your body's insulin response is slower, meaning those elevated sugar levels hang around longer than they would in the daytime. This keeps your blood slightly thicker and stickier, conditions that make clot formation easier. The second problem is the vascular irritation and drug interaction caused by the compounds in this fruit. While your body is in its natural low gear at night, your liver is still processing the chemicals from what you ate. If you've also taken evening medications like blood pressure pills, cholesterol drugs, or certain sleep aids, those same furanocoumarins can block the enzymes that break them down. That means the medicine stays active in your bloodstream longer, sometimes to a harmful degree. These two effects combine in a way that's especially risky in the early morning hours between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. This is when your body naturally shifts from rest mode to wake mode. Blood pressure rises sharply, heart rate increases, and blood vessels constrict slightly, all normal for preparing to face the day. But if your blood is already thicker from overnight sugar and your arteries are slightly inflamed, this surge can be the final push that dislodges a small clot. If that clot travels to your brain, a stroke can occur before you've even had your first sip of coffee. I recall a case with Mr. Thompson, 70, who came to me after a mini-stroke that woke him up just before dawn. He was convinced it was just bad luck. He had no major health problems and lived an active life. But when we examined his diet, he revealed he'd been eating this fruit as a light dessert nearly every night, believing it was better than ice cream. He also took his cholesterol medication after dinner. Lab tests last night showed his drug levels were much higher than expected, and his morning blood sugar was elevated despite not having diabetes. Once he cut out the fruit in the evenings, his morning blood sugar normalized, and his risk factors improved significantly. This is why I tell my patients that after 60 timing is as important as content. You might think of a food as breakfast fruit, but if you have it at the wrong time of day, its effects can linger and intersect with your body's natural rhythms in dangerous ways. In a few minutes, I'll share how this same risk applies to more than just fruit, and why the next food on our list, while considered a superfood by many, can cause similar nighttime problems without you realizing it. But before we get there, it's important to understand another hidden factor, how your medications interact with what you eat, and why certain food-drug combinations can quietly double your stroke risk. By the time most people reach 60, taking at least one daily medication is the norm. In fact, many seniors are on 3, 4, or even more prescriptions for blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, arthritis, or heart rhythm problems. Each of these drugs is designed to work within a certain range in your bloodstream. But when food interferes with the way they're absorbed or broken down, that careful balance can be thrown off sometimes with dangerous consequences. The fruit we've been discussing is a classic example. It's furanocoumarins, the same compounds that can irritate artery walls, also interfere with CYP3A4, a key liver enzyme that helps break down many common medications. When this enzyme is blocked, drugs can stay in your system longer and at higher concentrations than your doctor intended. This isn't an allergy or poisoning. It's a metabolic logjam that changes the way your body handles the medicine. For some medications, this interaction can be dramatic. Blood pressure drugs can lower your pressure too much, leaving your brain undersupplied with oxygen-rich blood. Cholesterol medications can build up to levels that strain your liver or muscles. Blood thinners can increase bleeding risk. Even medications for irregular heartbeat can become more potent than intended, potentially causing dangerous rhythm changes. The risk doesn't end there. Some medications are meant to work in short bursts, for example, certain blood sugar-lowering pills or short-acting blood pressure meds. When these drugs stick around longer than planned, your body's natural rhythms can be disrupted. That's why we sometimes see patients who feel perfectly fine at bedtime, only to wake up dizzy, disoriented, or weak in the early morning hours, a sign that their drug levels were still peaking while they slept. This is especially concerning for seniors, because aging slows the liver's ability to clear drugs even without food interactions. Add a dietary blocker like furanocoumarins and the effect can be magnified. Your therapeutic dose can tip into the toxic range without a single change in your prescription. I remember Mrs. Chen, a 72-year-old grandmother, who came to my office after experiencing several brief episodes of vision loss. They lasted only a few seconds each, but they were unsettling. She was on a calcium channel blocker for blood pressure and a statin for cholesterol, both medications known to be affected by furanocoumarins. When I asked about her diet, she proudly told me she ate this fruit every morning, often right after taking her pills. Her blood tests revealed elevated drug levels even though her dosages hadn't changed in years. The fruit had been quietly altering her metabolism, turning safe, steady medication levels into unpredictable spikes. We adjusted her diet, replacing the fruit with low-sugar berries, and within a month, the vision episodes stopped entirely. The lesson here is simple, but critical after 60. Your medication and your food must be viewed as a single system. They don't work in isolation. If you're taking any prescription drugs, especially those for the heart blood pressure or cholesterol, you need to be aware of which foods can amplify their effects or keep them in your system too long. In the next section, I'll share Mrs. Chen's full story and how she used a safer, brain-friendly breakfast strategy to protect her circulation without giving up the satisfaction of a fresh, flavorful start to her day. Mrs. Chen's case is a perfect reminder that even the most disciplined health habits can have hidden pitfalls. At 72, she was a vibrant, active grandmother who loved cooking for her family and tending her garden. Her blood pressure was well controlled, her cholesterol numbers were steady, and she took pride in the fact that she'd never had a major health scare. Her mornings followed the same ritual for years. She would wake at 6:30, pour herself a glass of warm water, and prepare a small plate with slices of her favorite fruit, sometimes even blending it into a juice. She believed it was the purest, most natural way to start the day. After eating, she would take her calcium channel blocker for blood pressure, and her cholesterol-lowering statin Confident. She was supporting her heart and arteries in every way possible. The first warning signs came quietly. At first, she noticed fleeting moments when her vision would cloud, as if a sheer curtain had been pulled across her eyes. These episodes lasted less than a minute and happened only once every few weeks. But over the next 6 months, they became more frequent and more unsettling. Some mornings, she would also feel slightly lightheaded or have a faint tingling in her fingertips. When she came to see me, she was worried it might be the start of a serious eye condition. But as we went through her medical history and daily routine, a different pattern emerged. Her medications were both metabolized by CYP3A4, the liver enzyme known to be inhibited by furanocoumarins, the compounds found in her beloved morning fruit. We ordered lab work to measure the levels of her medications in her bloodstream, and the results told the story they were significantly higher than expected, even though she was on standard doses. I explained to her that the fruit itself wasn't poison, but for someone her age, with her specific prescriptions, it could create dangerous surges in drug potency. The cloudy vision was likely a result of blood pressure dropping too low in the hours after her medication, reducing blood flow to the minks and potentially to the brain. We worked together to design a brain-friendly breakfast plan. She swapped her morning fruit for a small bowl of plain Greek yogurt, topped with blueberries and a sprinkle of ground flaxseed foods that supported circulation without spiking blood sugar or interfering with her medications. On days when she really wanted fruit, we moved it to the afternoon several hours after her pills had been absorbed. The change was dramatic. Within 2 weeks, the vision episodes stopped. Her energy in the mornings improved, and she told me she felt clear-headed for the first time in months. Follow-up blood tests showed her medication levels had returned to the safe intended range. What struck me most was Mrs. Chen's reaction. She wasn't angry about giving up her favorite fruit in the morning. She was relieved to finally understand the cause of her symptoms. Like so many seniors, she had assumed that eating natural foods could only help, never harm. Now she knew that in her 70s, the rules were different and awareness was her best defense. Her story is an important reminder that protecting your brain and circulation isn't just about avoiding the obvious dangers, like fast food or smoking. It's about identifying the subtle everyday choices that quietly add up: the timing of a meal, the pairing of a food with a medication, and the unique vulnerabilities that come with age. And now, with these lessons in mind, we're ready to move to a brighter topic: the foods and habits that can actually strengthen your brain's blood vessels, protect your circulation, and give you a safe, energizing start to the day. That's exactly what we'll cover in the next section. After spending so much time talking about the risks, it's time to shift the focus to something more uplifting: the foods and habits that actually protect your brain's circulation and keep your arteries flexible well into your later years. The good news is, with a few simple swaps, you can still enjoy a delicious breakfast without sacrificing safety. The first principle is balance. Instead of starting your day with a concentrated source of sugar, even natural sugar, aim to pair any fruit with a source of protein and healthy fat. This slows the release of glucose into your bloodstream, preventing the sharp spikes that strain aging arteries. For example, a handful of walnuts or almonds alongside your fruit provides healthy fats and plant-based protein, creating a steady energy curve instead of a roller coaster. Second, choose fruits with a low glycemic load and no known interactions with common senior medications. Berries are the all-stars here. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries are rich in antioxidants that protect blood vessel walls while also being gentle on blood sugar. They also contain compounds that help reduce inflammation rather than trigger it. Third, timing matters. If you're taking medications in the morning that could interact with certain foods, eat your fruit later in the day, at least 3 to 4 hours after your pills. This allows your body to absorb and process the medication before any possible enzyme interference occurs. For some patients, I recommend swapping fruit entirely at breakfast for vegetable-based options. A spinach and mushroom omelette, for example, delivers potassium and magnesium for blood pressure control, plus antioxidants for vascular health, all without the sugar surge. Adding avocado provides monounsaturated fats that improve cholesterol profiles and help keep artery walls supple. One of my favorite circulation-friendly breakfasts for seniors is a small bowl of plain Greek yogurt topped with blueberries, ground flaxseed, and a drizzle of olive oil. It might sound unusual, but that combination delivers protein, omega-3 fats, fiber, and antioxidants in a form that supports healthy blood flow to the brain. Hydration is another overlooked factor. Dehydration thickens your blood and makes clot formation more likely. Beginning your day with a glass of water before eating can help offset overnight fluid loss and reduce early morning stroke risk. Some patients also benefit from adding a pinch of mineral-rich sea salt to their water, if they're not on a sodium-restricted diet, to help maintain fluid balance. It's also important to think beyond just food. Gentle morning movement, even 5 minutes of stretching or walking, helps wake up your circulation and encourage smooth blood flow. This is especially helpful after a night's rest, when your vessels are more prone to sluggishness. If you're someone who feels attached to your morning fruit, I'm not here to tell you to never eat it again. I'm here to help you eat it smarter. Choosing varieties that protect rather than harm, pairing them with foods that buffer their effects, and timing them so they work with, not against, your medications. By making these small adjustments, you're not just avoiding danger. You're actively building resilience into your daily routine. And when it comes to brain health, that's one of the most powerful tools you have. In our final section, I'll bring all of these lessons together into a simple stroke-free breakfast plan. You can follow starting tomorrow, one that's safe, satisfying, and sustainable for the long term. We've covered a lot of ground, from the sugar surges that stress aging arteries to the hidden compounds in certain fruits that can quietly interfere with your medications, to the timing mistakes that leave you most vulnerable in the early morning hours. If there's one message I want you to take away, it's this. After 60, healthy is not a one-size-fits-all concept. Foods that once helped you can, under the right conditions, work against you. But with knowledge and a few smart adjustments, you can reclaim control over your breakfast and your brain's future. The truth is, your morning meal sets the tone for your entire day. For seniors, the first few hours after waking are a high-stakes window for circulation and brain health. Blood is thicker, vessels are less flexible, and the risk of stroke is at its peak. This is why a stroke-free breakfast is not just about what to avoid. It's about actively choosing foods and habits that support steady blood flow, balanced sugar levels, and safe medication absorption. Here's a simple, safe breakfast framework you can follow, starting tomorrow. Hydrate before you eat. Drink a glass of water upon waking to counteract overnight fluid loss. This reduces blood thickness and improves circulation. Start with protein and healthy fats. Examples: eggs with spinach and avocado, or plain Greek yogurt with chia seeds and walnuts. These provide stable energy without spiking blood sugar. Choose low glycemic fruits in small portions. If you want, fruit, pick berries, kiwi, or apple slices, and pair them with protein, fat, to slow sugar absorption. Time your fruit wisely. If you take medications in the morning that interact with certain fruits, move fruit to the afternoon, at least 3 to 4 hours later. Skip late-night fruit. Avoid high-sugar foods before bed to prevent overnight blood sugar spikes and early morning clotting risk. Add circulation boosters. Herbs like cinnamon or turmeric in your breakfast can help reduce inflammation and support vessel health. Move gently after eating. A short walk or light stretching helps promote healthy blood flow to the brain. Remember, these changes aren't about deprivation, they're about protection. A breakfast that's safe for your brain today is an investment in your independence tomorrow. When I think of patients like Mr. Alvarez and Mrs. Chen, I see proof that small, consistent changes can prevent major health crises. By removing one risky food from their morning routines and replacing it with smarter options, they not only avoided further strokes, but also improved their daily energy and mental clarity. You have that same power. Every choice you make at breakfast is an opportunity to protect your circulation. Preserve your memory and keep your life in your own hands. You don't need to fear your food, you just need to understand it and work with your body's needs. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss another tip designed to keep you healthier, stronger, and sharper for the years ahead. Your health is your most valuable asset. Guard it well starting tomorrow morning.